Good afternoon and welcome everybody. My name is Michelle Belanger and it's my pleasure to be moderating this panel today for the Career Discovery Series. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge that the land we are broadcasting from in Toronto is a traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississauga of Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with Mississaugas of the Credit. Thank you for everyone attending our Career Discovery Series webinar today. The Career Discovery Series is an opportunity for you, the students and teachers, to hear about various career paths that are available to you to learn from experts in various industries today. We are extremely fortunate to have a great group of panelists here today that are looking forward to sharing some of their experiences with you. Our panelists will be sharing their wealth of knowledge, so make sure you take notes to capture their tips and reflections. At the end of the event, there will be some time for questions from you. Please input your questions along the way throughout the webinar in the Q&A box. We will ensure to get to them all at the end of the session. Students, please do ask questions today. As they say, no question is a bad question, and it isn't every day that you have the chance to talk with this group of people. Our speakers today all have different educational and career paths. So it's our hope that through this webinar today, each of you are going to learn something new that would work and inspire you to help yourself in the future. Understand that this will be a journey and that you don't have to figure it all out now. Promise you, you will figure it out one day, my friends. You can go through today's webinar, embrace the opportunities that you can learn from, and these will all help you on your way. Again, we encourage you to take notes, do some research tonight if something sparks your interest, and once again, feel free to put any questions you may have in the chat so we can have our panelists answer them today. We are going to kick off with our first panelist. Marella Marsh is a certified professional coach and the director of operations at Penmore Financial Group with a school-age daughter and teenage son. Many of you can probably relate to the teenage son. Marla finds joy in creating incredible meals from random ingredients in her pantry, watching and playing sports, especially volleyball and basketball. For the past 14 years, she's become a passionate leader in her career, proving that building a culture of open and honest communication, fostering collaboration, and encouraging teamwork will drive to success in the personal and work environment. When her children became old enough to empty the dishwasher, she returned to school to obtain her master's certificate in project management, master's certificate in performance and learning, and dissertation in professional coaching. Her continued dedication to education serves as a key ingredient to delivering results and an engaged team. She treats herself to traveling and road trips with her husband and kids. They enjoy all the local food, swimming, sightseeing, free from the agendas and schedules. Sounds like a fun time when you do get to take a road trip. Please, thank you for being with us today, and please share with the students a little bit about yourself and your career journey.
Good afternoon, everyone. And welcome to all the high school students joining us today. Congratulations on showing up to learn and explore different possibilities that may help you discover, more about yourself and ignite some creativity. So if you're sitting here today thinking, I'm not sure, I have no idea what I'm gonna do, I'm feeling the pressure to do something else, or I have a clue, but I don't know where to start, you are not alone. It's normal and understandable to think and feel this way, especially with the amount of data and information and expectations you need to absorb and overcome to get you to the next day. So by attending this event, you've taken a big step towards your development to support your planning and ease some of the uncertainties you may be experiencing. So today I'll share a few pivotal turning points in my career, educational path, and personal stories that helped me stay true to myself and hopefully motivate you to do the same. So reflecting on when I was in your age group some time ago, from the second half of grade 11 to the end of high school, I began gravitating towards business, accounting, and entrepreneur courses. It was honestly the first time I felt I could follow through the course material, participate, and action the work without losing interest. Then in grade 12, I took a co-op course for one semester, which gave me field experience in an actual company. I met different people in different roles. I observed and supported them in their daily tasks. Also, it was during this time when I started the first retail job that taught me how to interact with people, follow training procedures, manage payments, solve problems, provide customer service, etc. So I was pleased to have a direction. Of course, I had no idea that my sudden engagement in schoolwork and the job I was learning was shaping my strengths and skill set. Plus, I was honestly enjoying the learning and the experience. So if you can relate to this, don't shy away from this knowledge. Instead, stay curious and pay close attention to the emotions coming up for you, good or bad, as you explore new courses or activities. Our emotions are signals from the heart, body, and mind, letting you know what's working for you or not. So take the time to journal or note your thoughts and observations in your mobile devices or a notebook to help you plan. So after high school, after graduating from high school, I had to work full time at an electronics store to help my parents financially support our family. So as a result, I couldn't take off and go to any school that I wanted. But instead, I attended a local college close to my home, studied accounting during the day, then worked in the evenings. So after a few years, I learned more about my family's challenges with managing money. It motivated me to never be in that situation. So I took a new course to become a financial planner. And as a result, I gained the confidence in saving and investing money, learning different types of insurances, how to budget, and of course, debt management. This moment was a critical turning point for me. As I embraced this new learning, I used the knowledge on myself, took charge of my finances, and helped my family. So financial literacy is a lifelong skill used in every stage and aspect of a person's life. I used this skill to pave the way for my career in finance. So I became a financial representative, then a credit manager and underwriter for a few years, helping and teaching people about money and managing their debt. This experience brings me joy, especially to practice this knowledge in my own personal life and with anyone who reaches out for help today. But as mentioned earlier, the first retail job taught me how to interact with people and developed my interpersonal skills. Of course, I was nervous and scared at first. However, practicing with customers and peers helped me with my shyness and fear of public speaking. As I got older, I kept trying until it was natural for me and confidently handled any situation I faced. The opportunity to team up with people, solve problems, and celebrating successes became a passion for me. So it wasn't long until I received more favorable recognitions from my leadership qualities and support from my peers, encouraging me to express my interest in management role to my leaders. It was encouraging to learn that the sentiments were mutual and my leaders welcomed the idea of starting my mentorship and management training. The excitement I felt for validating and acknowledging my ability to be a leader at such a young age was beyond belief, especially after a difficult start to my post-secondary education. But remember, our past does not define who we are or want to be. It's how we find the courage to bounce back, learn from the experience, and overcome those moments of hardship. But as my education and career grew, I also valued family life, and I got married at age of 24. So a couple of years later, I embraced the opportunity to have a child in my 20s. But unfortunately, my pregnancy caused a health concern, and I had to leave work to focus on my baby to bring it to term. Thankfully, my son was born healthy and gave me the joy of becoming a mother. So by the end of my maternity leave, I decided to recommit to my future career as a manager. So I registered for a course to obtain a diploma in business management, to really demonstrate my intention in the field of management and leadership. So along with good character and experience. So when I returned to work after my maternity leave, I was balancing school, working full-time, mommy time, and marriage. Within 8 months, I was promoted to customer relations and administration manager. It's my first leadership role. The opportunity meant having more responsibility, running my own department, a larger team, and solving more problems. But just as we experience anything new for the first time, the learning curve is more significant and making mistake is part of the experience. And above that, the focus and the priority shifts from the self to the rest of the team. So I adjusted my mindset to build trust. And so we can start seeing results. A couple of years into my management role, I learned I was pregnant again with my second child. And unfortunately, I experienced the same health condition during my pregnancy. Therefore, I needed to leave work to bring my baby to term. Shortly after giving birth, the company that I worked for did not survive the financial crash in 2009, and they had to close. So as a result, we were faced with a new uncertainty, and especially with a young family and a mortgage. So before my maternity leave was over, I secured a new management role with a new company. And for 9 years, I held multiple regional management roles in operations and sales support within that organization, each role with increasing responsibility. And in addition, I oversaw numerous branch offices in the GTA, each of them having their own team and staff. So there's a lot of responsibility. But I welcomed the opportunity, trusted my capabilities, I adapted, I evolved, I embraced the change by elevating my skills through leadership and skill development courses. As you know, lifelong learning is vital to thriving in any career in any industry. Staying relevant with the tools and techniques, processes, gathering ideas, and especially learning from others as technology and the economy and work environment continues to evolve and become more competitive. And most importantly, people change. Therefore, your wants and needs will change too. So what you decide today may be different a few years from now, and that's okay. So as I continued my commitment to helping people excel in their work while delivering results has earned me the recognition and knowledge to lead the way I choose and take my career wherever I want to go. So when I was ready, I accepted a new role with another company as a director of operations. At the same time, and during the same time period, I also started my own business and followed my true passion and becoming a personal growth and development coach. With over 14 years of management leadership experience, I've learned to train, develop, and lead people well in their roles, achieve their career goals, earn their trust and respect. I transferred this knowledge and integrated with certification and professional coaching program. The truth is I want to help young people thrive through better careers and money habits. That's one of the reasons I'm here today. I want to contribute to our community by helping, guiding, influencing, and supporting the future leaders of our generations, the people in this call today. So I want to thank you for staying tuned in and allowing me to share my story. Remember to listen to your heart, be kind and humble, no matter how tough it gets. Not everyone pursues the same path. You got to create your own. And most of all, celebrate as often as you can and have fun. Thank you.
That was wonderful. And thank you so much for sharing your story, especially in quite detail. There's a lot of experiences that you've had. And the one thing that really showcases on the slide here is lifelong learning. You showcase that. You have multiple certificates, degrees, and I can really assume you're not done either. You're going to continue. You're going to have some more things to add to this list. And it really just showcase you practice what you preach. You want everyone to continue to learn, and you're doing that. The other point I really just want to showcase, because it does resonate with me, is stay curious. I think that's really important for anybody, no matter how old you are. If something sparks your interest, if something gives you a little light bulb, brings a smile to your face, dig into it, learn a little bit more, because you never know what'll happen. And again, we all know who Curious George was. He was a little monkey and all. If he wasn't curious, he wouldn't be where he is today. We're living in with the man in New York, if anyone has read those books. And so again, really appreciate your time, your experience. And again, to everybody, take note of everything that she did share with us, because we're all going to be able to continue to learn. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
We're going to bring our second panelist up today, and that is Sean Deglux. Sean left Ottawa when he was in his final year of high school to pursue athletics and academics in the U.S., educated as a civil engineer. Sean currently leads a team of project managers specializing in engineering, architecture, and construction, delivering a mega project along Toronto's waterfront. Sean, we're so pleased to have you today. I'm really looking forward to hear about your experiences through your education, well, as you did participate in the United States, and some of your work that you're doing here within Toronto, and anything else you'd like to share with the students today. Over to you.
Great. Thanks very much, Michelle. Thanks also, Marella. That was really fantastic. Even I learned a few things from your talk there. Similarly, I will start in my high school years, just about a decade ago. I was growing up in Ottawa. I was in the high school band playing trombone, and the most interesting subjects to me were math, be it calculus, geometry, algebra, and all the sciences, mainly physics. I was very fortunate to have teachers who made those classes more about actually solving problems than just the number side of things. So that's what I was involved in, but a little bit more importantly to me at the time, I played on every sports team you could think of in high school: soccer, baseball, basketball, hockey, football, lacrosse, volleyball, you name it. I played it. So my absolute favorite class at the time was actually phys ed, because that was just an excuse to play even more sports at the time. I started towards the end of my high school career to hone my efforts towards playing football, and it actually led me to getting some interest from Canadian universities towards the end of grade 10 and 11. However, I wanted to pursue the absolute highest level that I could have. So had you asked me about a decade ago what I was going to be doing today, I would have told you that my career was going to be in kicking footballs, literally playing football for a living. That was the only thing on my mind. And education was a bit of an afterthought. Again, fortunately, I grew up in a family that emphasized the importance of having a backup plan and having, education, something that can last a little bit longer than sports can. So I ended up choosing a university for two reasons. Firstly, they had a football team that was willing to pay for a full athletic scholarship. And secondly, and more importantly in my life today, they had a very well-known civil engineering program at the University of Maine. So that's what I did. I studied civil engineering and I played football for my 4 years of university. Although I was good at math and science in high school, engineering was still a challenge. And I think it is one of the most challenging undergrads out there. However, there are an amazing amount of resources, be it tutors or study groups. So if you have any fear of engaging in engineering or a number-based university degree, do not worry, because there are resources like you wouldn't believe, and I tapped into them and can vouch for them. They're very, very helpful. However, no matter how much I enjoyed school or the learning or what was going on in class, at the front of my mind throughout university was playing football. A quick summary of my career. Playing football was, over the course of my 4 years at the University of Maine, I broke all kinds of records. I'm the school's all-time leading scorer, and things were looking really, really good for me going into my final year. However, in the second half of that fourth year, I developed a groin injury. And without going into too much detail, a groin injury is like the kiss of death for a kicker. It's not good at all. So I realized very late in the game that I, in fact, was going to need to use my degree in engineering to get a job, because football was no longer a realistic aspiration. So this is where my actual kind of corporate job or real workplace experience begins, in civil engineering. So to break it down a little bit more with a little bit more detail, I'll tell you first what civil infrastructure is. So civil infrastructure, if you walk outside, you can see it everywhere. It is roads, bridges, buildings, railways, utilities, like how water transfers from one place to another, similarly with how electricity gets from one place to another. So that's civil infrastructure, whereas engineering is using math, using physics, and using kind of number-based principles to design and build these types of infrastructure in a way that is safe for public use. Civil engineering can go in many directions. There's structural, geotechnical, so focusing on soils and the ground; hydrogeological, so focusing on the movement of water; municipal, utilities; marine, anything close to water; traffic. believe me, there's tons of traffic engineering jobs in the GTA for very obvious reasons. But the beauty of a degree in engineering is that it prepares you to solve problems in many, many ways, and including obviously numbers. And this makes you very appealing to companies that work in engineering, construction, finance, consulting, and more. So it's a very, very flexible degree in that just because I studied civil didn't mean I had to pursue a career in civil. There are tons of admirable traits you get out of the degree. So at the start of my career, I pursued civil engineering, and I focused on very small details within a project. So my day-to-day include making site inspections, i.e. going out, seeing a bridge and asking, is this bridge in good condition? What could cause it to fail in the near future? How can we repair it? So there was a lot of report writing. I did a lot of number crunching as well, both structural and wave analysis. So for example, there was a pier on Lake Erie that was beginning to fail. It was starting to fall into the water. So we had to model what the wave impact were on the pier and then structurally reinforce it so it could continue to stand and be in operation. And then after pumping out these designs, it was very common for the engineer to actually be on site during the construction side of things to make sure that the design I had prepared was being carried out properly. I did that for 2 years, and then I transitioned more towards project management. So where previously I was focusing on very fine details of projects, project managers focus a little bit more on the larger picture. So design is still a very important component, but you also focus on the schedule, the budget, the stakeholders, for example, who owned that pier, who is responsible for constructing it, who is responsible for the design, who uses the pier, is it the general public, is there a fishing operation? So making sure all the stakeholders are happy. And then risk. Risk is a big word used in project management, and it has to do with making sure if there are any uncertainties in the project, how you can best use the information at hand and achieve a desirable outcome. So after 4 years of project management, I have recently moved into a new role, which is still in project management, but more so leading a team. So I now have 12 project managers who report directly to me. So it's more of a people manager role. But what's important to note is that I wouldn't have been able to get to this role without the experience that I gained at the project level, focusing on the very fine details, and then as a project manager, and now obviously being responsible for a team. So my typical outputs are coaching members of the team, putting together processes that are going to allow them to succeed, and some big picture initiatives that involve kind of like program wide. So a grouping of projects as a program, and how cost, ownership, external stakeholders are dealt with. So that's what I do right now. A few other small kind of tidbits about my academic career so far, and also professional certifications. Once you graduate, in order to become a professional engineer, you have to practice engineering for 4 years. Once you become a professional engineer, it gives you the ability to stamp drawings, which basically says that you have confirmed as a professional engineer that it is something has been designed properly in accordance with local codes and can now be constructed. I also pursued a master's of engineering. That was a 2-year program to elevate on the undergrad courses that I did, and also help transition my American degree to Canada. I pursued a project management professional certification. So these are just kind of best management practices for managing projects. And I'm currently enrolled at the U of T part-time to do a master's of business administration. So I'm hoping that this program, the newest one, is going to help teach me about accounting, finance, human resourcing, and leadership to move from kind of the people manager I am right now to the next level, which is managing like an entire corporation or company. So the 2 pieces of advice I wanted to leave you with, I know there's actually one on the screen right now about what you know and who you know, but the best things that I can leave you with are to not be afraid of a program that has courses you may struggle with. Engineering was, believe me, like an obstacle for me to climb. It was not always easy, but the amount of resources available at institutions, colleges, university are extraordinary, and you can make use of them, and it's very, very helpful. And the other thing is, because I initially was so dead set on pursuing a career in football, the other really good advice is to make friends with everyone. Make friends with all of your classmates, because you never know, who you're going to need when you're going to need them, and the same goes for them when they're going to be able to leverage some of your advice or expertise. So that's everything I have, and thanks very much for the time, everyone.
Thank you, Sean. We really appreciate your time today and sharing your story as well. I think we all may know a friend or family member who wants to be the next Austin Matthews, the next Kyle Lowry. They love playing sports, and we want to encourage you to do that, right? Reach for your goals and your dreams. However, like in your experience, an injury can really make or break sometimes a career, and having that educational background is really important. And it's great to hear you found something you really like to do. You've really continued on to it. And just like our first panelist, you're continuing your education too. So you can take on hopefully a company in your next opportunity, right? You're going to be able to manage a much larger scale. And I think that's amazing that you're able to share that with the students today. You've been able to work hard towards what you want to work, and able to continue on your goals as well. So I really appreciate your time today. And we'll get into some questions later on.
Thanks, Michelle.
We are going to bring our third panelist up now. And our third panelist is Bhav Bharara. Bhav works in an exciting space within TD Bank, where her main role, simply put, is prepare people to adapt to something new. I'm going to guess her job was quite busy the past 2 years, as we all dealt with something a little bit new. On a personal note, she is from Mississauga, born and raised, and the oldest daughter of 3 to a Punjabi parents. It's in her free time, she is either researching a new country she wants to visit, Portugal is up next on the list, or obsessing over puppy reels on Instagram. Other days you'll find her running outside. She's super proud to say she's completed her first ever half marathon in May 2022. That is a big congratulations to you. Pat yourself on the back for completing that half marathon. And thank you once again for being with us today. Please share your story with the students.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you everyone at JA Central for including me in this presentation today. I'm both excited and thankful to have this opportunity. To be honest, I know in the last 16 minutes or so, I've learned so much from Marella and Sean's presentation. So I hope in return, there's a little something that each of you take away from my personal journey as well. A little bit about me. So I know Michelle just shared some fun facts, but a fun fact in terms of my career path, I've actually started working when I was, I believe, in grade 11 or 12 in high school. So I have worked ever since. Never really had a break in between. Even while I pursued my education full time, I was that student working 2 jobs, hustling away so I could pay my tuition fees and live away from home. So I definitely resonate with the stories that Marella shared in terms of, working and also helping your family out. So with that being said, I've worked at 10 plus companies that I can probably think of off the top of my head, various industries. I've worked retail, I've worked at restaurants, I've worked at the university's libraries, I've worked at call centers. And then after graduating university, I've also worked for the municipal government, so City of Toronto, and also financial institutions. My first job ever was, I was a part-time Tim Hortons cashier. So I started working that, like I said, I think in grade 11. And to be honest, I wouldn't say this at that time when I was 17 or 18 years old, but it taught me so much about customer service, doing things right the first time around. So you don't have an angry customer driving back through the drive-through just to say, hey, you messed up my coffee order. How could you do that? And it also taught me a lot about self-discipline and money management. There's nothing, I don't know about how many of you are working right now part-time, but there's nothing more exciting than getting your first paycheck, working your first part-time job. And then I remember at that time, what I was thinking of was, okay, pay your cell phone bill, whatever few things you have to pay for at home, you gotta have some money for your lunch, and then the rest of the money, you can go to movies with your friends, you can treat your friends to lunches. So definitely taught me a lot about budgeting at a very young age, which I'm very, very thankful and blessed for. And then in terms of my career journey after that, so in high school, starting high school, actually, all the way till now, my career journey was definitely not linear. Just like Marella and Sean, I had many crossroads, bumps, and detours along the way. Just when I thought, okay, I'm going to go from point A to B, it was more like going from point A to C to D to E and then to point B. So a lot of pit stops along the way. But there was always an underlying theme, which was I have a genuine curiosity for people, and more so the psychology of people. Why do we think the way we do? How can we be our best version of ourselves in our workplace, in our personal relationships, at school? And I also had a curiosity for solving problems. So these two themes were kind of my guiding pillars, I guess you can call them, as I navigated towards what I really want to do and what genuinely makes me happy at work. And I'm sure you can imagine we spend, I would say 50 to 60% of our day working or getting ready to go to work, which becomes about 70% of our day in total. So it's really important to like your job and have a passion for what you do. So with that being said, I ended up going to the University of Waterloo. After graduating from high school, I did a Bachelor of Arts in Honors Psychology, and I did a minor in Human Resources Management. And then after graduating, I considered pursuing research. I want to research workplace and industrial psychology. How can we make sure our employees are motivated? What motivates them? But I quickly realized after doing a few volunteering positions that staying in a lab all day wasn't the right environment for my skill set. So that kind of put me on a different path than what I had what I initially thought for myself. So I thought, okay, I don't want to do my master's in psychology because I don't want to research. So I decided to go back to school after graduating and focus more on a business stream. And this put me in a postgraduate certificate program for business analysis and process management. And I learned so much through that journey as well. It was a one-year certificate program. And at that time, I was working for the city of Toronto. So I was really lucky to have senior managers and VPs and AVPs that really supported my career journey and supported my curiosity for learning. So they were very encouraging in terms of going back to school and really pushed me. And I think that's really important in whatever career you choose. Like Sean mentioned, you need to have the right people that support you and give you that safe space to ask questions so that you can go back to school and achieve these additional certifications. So with that being said, there are a number of certificates that I've completed. I believe some of them are probably listed on there, but I've done my certified human resources professional designation. So I was a professional CHRP for a few years. I also have my entry certification in business analysis. And I also have my Lean Six Sigma in as a black belt professional. And I know a lot of you are probably like, what's that, black belt professional? Basically, this certification I was able to achieve with going back to school. So think of it as basically thinking about from point A to point B, we need to accomplish something. How can we systematically reduce waste and variation along the way so that it's a smoother ride from point A to point B? It's faster, it's more efficient, and we're removing the clutter as we get from point A to point B. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you may have about any of these certifications. But eventually that led me to looking for a career. So, I'm looking for what do I really want to do as my full-time career. I don't want to, just take a job. So at the City of Toronto, I was doing a job that I wasn't really passionate about. But I did get involved in some project work. So I knew from there, okay, I want to work for a financial institution. I want to be involved in projects, but I want to be involved in projects where we're bettering the customer experience. So that basically brought me to the position that I'm in today. So I'm a change manager for a product group within TD Bank. And, in terms of what do I do? So I know Michelle gave a very high level description, but my core responsibility is making sure the people that I work with and the people that are awesome customers, making sure that they're ready to adopt change. So more specifically, I work in the project space where we consider what changes can we make to our existing mortgage product to improve the mortgage buying experience for home buyers. So really quickly, I'll try to give like a 30-second breakdown of what this means. Imagine, you're buying your own home one day, and I'm sure for many of you that's a dream. I know it was for me up until I did get my first home. And it's often the biggest purchase we make, especially with the house prices nowadays. Probably is the biggest purchase we make in our lifetime. So I'm sure you can imagine how important it is, one, to find a bank that will loan you the money to buy your home, which we call a mortgage, because it's really hard to save up $1 million for the average home price for a house in a GTA nowadays. And number two, it's even more important to stay with a bank that values your money and your time. You borrowed all this money from a bank, but now if you have questions, it's important to know to know that you can go to a bank that supports you as a customer and will basically support you as a home buyer and then as a home owner for the next 20 to 30 years that you take to pay off your property, pay off that home. So it's crucial to us as TD Bank to offer the right experience for our customers so that they choose us in the first place, but then also stay with us for the next 20 to 30 years as a customer. So a typical day for me is I get into the office, I'm connecting with business leaders, I'm asking all the questions to say, okay, you want to introduce this change? What does this change look like? Who is going to be impacted by these changes inside the bank and outside? And as I'm sure you can imagine, just to give you a little fun fact, there's over 90,000 TD employees. So I'm often asking the question about who will be involved in this change out of these 90,000 people that work at this company. And then out of our thousands of customers, who is the cohort of customers that will be impacted by this change that we're trying to make? So, imagine calling your bank and you ask a question about your mortgage and the employee on the other end has no idea what you're talking about because they missed out on a change that the bank implemented. So that would be a terrible experience. So that's where, my job is critical to make sure that everyone that needs to know about this change knows about it. And then also that they're ready to adopt this change, right? So what's the best way for me as a change manager to make sure that you as a customer or you as a TD employee can absorb this new information? And, does that look like a simple communication where I just type up an email and say, hey, Bhav, here's what the change looks like? Or do I need to put on my creative thinking hat and say, no, we need to create an entire training program with videos and job aids. We need to get our marketing folks involved to make sure that all of our colleagues are ready to adopt this change. And to be honest, going back to those two pillars that keep me motivated, understanding people and solving problems, I think, working as a change manager, it couldn't be a better place for me. So I'm really passionate about what I do and more than happy to answer any questions that you may have about that career choice. And then in terms of any takeaways that I could give to you guys, for those of you that are still in high school, is I was thinking back, what advice could I give to myself when I was 17 or 18, even though it's been over 10 years since I've been out of high school, is be curious. Take a range of courses in high school, even the ones that seem hard. I know for me, I lacked in that self-confidence to take the hard courses. I think I stopped taking science courses after grade 10. Until this day, I always tell myself, I wish I'd taken more biology and more chemistry, because then I could have gone to the science stream of psychology at that time to understand the science behind how our brain works and how we think. So just don't be afraid. The worst thing you can do is, not understand a concept, but I promise you with the teacher and the support system you have that you'll be able to get through it. And then self-reflect, make a list of courses that you like, research what university and college programs pique your interest related to those topics that you liked in high school. And then also ask your guidance counselors, your teachers about their career journeys, what advice they have, or even reach out to those universities and ask them, say, hey, academic advisor, I want to pursue this university program. What career choices are available after I graduate so that you know what you'll be doing afterwards? And And it's okay to have a change of heart. Like if you go into one stream and decide by third year you want to change into another stream because you took a different course, that's the beauty of learning, right? So I highly, highly encourage that. And really, if I had any piece of advice for you guys, is that all that matters is that you're doing better than yesterday. I know I always tell my younger sisters this, with social media nowadays, it seems like everyone has it figured out and life has to be this perfect puzzle where everything kind of just fits into place. But the reality is often it's not that way. Life is a continuous journey of learning, making mistakes. And I've learned more from my mistakes than I have from doing things right the first time around. So it's all good to make those mistakes. And lastly, don't be so hard on yourself. Life is a marathon, it's not a sprint. So along your journey in finding your career, just remember to take care of yourselves, remember to take those breaks, prioritize your mental wellness and your physical wellness just as much as you do that hunger for wanting a good career and pursuing your education. And I promise you at the end of it all, one day it will make sense. Thank you, Michelle.
Oh, no, thank you. I really appreciate you sharing your story from your first job. I was similar working as a waitress as your first job in customer service. Really does, you learn a lot of those skills right away in that industry. And I'm really happy that's kind of sparked your interest into where you are today. And there's so many things I could probably comment on from your talk. And the two main things I want to just mention here, you had that opportunity where you were working in a lab and you went, this isn't for me. I don't want to continue doing this. And the one thing I want to share with the students is that is a win opportunity. When you do something and you go, I don't want to pursue this. I don't enjoy that. That's okay. That's something off your list. You're not going to spend the time or resources on that. And again, you've learned something about yourself. So do not get upset when those opportunities do not go the way you want them to. You are still going to learn from them. And I really like that you did touch on TD Bank and the thousands of individuals that work there. I think a lot of people just assume a bank is the one around the corner that you go get your money out of and you talk to a bank teller. But as you mentioned, there's so many different pieces of a bank. And so to the students, don't just assume there's one position. There's thousands of positions at a bank. And so just like Bhav shared her experience, she works with other teams within the bank too, the marketing team. So again, you're not just limited in one role. There's thousands that you can research at all of the banks. And really, thank you for everything you've shared. And we will dive into a few questions very shortly.
Thank you.
We're going to bring our last panelist up for today, and that is Lily Lee. Lily Lee is a registered nurse certified in psychiatry and mental health nursing. She's currently pursuing her master's in nursing with a field of study in leadership and healthcare policy and education. Lily is currently at school right now, who is joining us today. So we're really grateful for her time. And over to you, Lily, to share your experiences with the students.
Thank you, Michelle. And thank you to the others that presented earlier. I learned a lot. So hi, everyone. My name is Lily. I am a registered nurse and I work at the Center for Mental Health and Addictions, which is known as CAMH here in Toronto. I graduated in 2018 from the Toronto Metropolitan University. It's still a mouthful, which was formerly known as Ryerson University. So I graduated with my Bachelor of Science in Nursing. I then received my certification in psychiatric and mental health nursing from the Canadian Nurses Association in 2020, and I have several other certificates as well that revolved around leadership, education, and substance use nursing. As Michelle stated, I am currently a graduate student at Toronto Metropolitan University, and I'm pursuing my master's in nursing with a field of study in leadership in healthcare policy and education, and I'm about halfway done. I graduate next year. I'm very excited. So I originally did pre-med at the University of Manitoba and then chose to pursue nursing instead. And the reason why I chose nursing is, well, first, it's very cliche, but I wanted to help people. And also I wanted to have the face-to-face interactions that nurses get with patients. I do not work at a medical hospital, and I chose to specialize in mental health for many reasons. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with CAMH, my organization, but we are a hospital dedicated for mental health and substance use issues. But moving on, one of the reasons why I chose to specialize in mental health is because, well, first, I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder when I was in high school. I witnessed and also experienced the stigma and discrimination that those with mental health issues had. And I also saw the lack of support and resources for those struggling. So I chose to specialize in mental health due to my lived experiences, which I believe can help me connect and understand my clients. I also chose to go back to get my master's in nursing because I want to make a change in the quality of care that people with mental health and substance use issues have. As well, I want to raise awareness and provide education about mental health and substance use issues. By doing that, I hope I can not erase, but reduce the amount of stigma and discrimination that these individuals have. The main challenge I had to overcome when I was an undergraduate student, and even now as a graduate student, was self-care. Life gets busy when you're balancing school, you're balancing work, your practicum if you're in nursing, things like that, and your personal life. And one thing I learned during my undergrad that I'm still practicing every day is, of course, self-care. So during my first year or so in undergrad, I burned out halfway through my program. So I had to take about a 6-month leave of absence. And I vowed to myself since then that I need to take care of myself. Otherwise, I won't be able to perform my best. One way I did this was by reflecting on what my goals were and reorganizing my priorities and clarifying what they were. So for example, what I would do is I would go home early if I had assignments due or if I worked the next day. I had to make sacrifices as well. I couldn't go out as often. I couldn't eat out as often. It was really hard balancing, but I knew in my heart that I wanted to finish the program, especially after taking a 6-month leave. I also want to mention that self-care doesn't start or end when you're in school. Self-care is something that you should be doing for the rest of your life. I want to say be kind to yourself and make sure you put yourself first. It's okay to say no. I have a problem. I always say yes, and I'm learning to say no. It's not selfish if you say no, and it's perfectly fine to put yourself first. Nursing is a wonderful profession because there are countless opportunities for you. A lot of people think, okay, I'm in nursing, so maybe I can only work in hospitals and work in bedside care. That's not the case. If bedside care is not for you, there's a lot of other routes that you can go to. There are nurses who work in the community, nurses who work in public health, clinics, nurses who do travel nursing as well. Fun fact, after you graduate with your undergrad in nursing here, you have to take a licensing exam. That's not really fun, but the exam allows you to have a license to work in Canada or Ontario or America as well. It's a dual license. Other than that, nurses can go into politics, we can go into law, policy making, education, management, and other leadership roles. The only issue with these advanced roles is that you have to usually go back for your master's degree if you decide to go that route. But I do recommend for those who are considering going into nursing, once you graduate as a new graduate nurse, I recommend dipping your toes into bedside nursing. So you can get that valuable experience in the hospital at the bedside, learn how to interact with patients and build that therapeutic communication skills and how to collaboratively work with an interdisciplinary team. So lastly, I just want to end this by reminding you all to be kind and patient to yourselves, and that self-care will really, really help as you move forward into your careers, your education, and for the rest of your life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Lily. Really appreciate you sharing your personal story and why you got into the field of work that you did. I think there's probably a few individuals on the call who might be able to relate to you, maybe have similar situations. And it's probably just a little, it gives them that reassurance that it's okay. I may have anxiety too, but you're able to get on your way. You can continue your education and you really have focused on that to help others. And honestly, it brings a smile to my face. You just talking about how you do want to make a difference in the world. The one thing you did mention as well, same with Bhav with TD, you do not just have to be nurse to work in the healthcare system, and there's different varieties of the healthcare system as well, right? You're at CAMH where it's mental health focused. You can sometimes focus on different age groups, different specializations. If it's maybe cancer, for example, there's different fields that you can get into, and it's not easy when I list all of these things. That means there's many options for you, but it does mean, again, there are those many options for you, and you can start to do that research. And just like you suggested, start with that bedside manner. That's going to give you that experience and probably give you those opportunities to go, I like doing this, and maybe I don't like doing this as much as well, which again, I always want to encourage everyone to take those opportunities as a learning opportunity if you do learn something, or if you do, or again, if you don't enjoy it, or if you do enjoy it. So thank you to all of the panelists for sharing their stories today, all of their words of wisdom. I know the audience have been taking many notes, and this is the time where I am going to bring all of our panelists back, and we are going to jump into our question and answer period. I do encourage the students and the teachers who are on the call to pop any questions into the Q&A box, and I will bring them up for all of our panelists. As we do wait for some of these questions to come in, I probably will start kicking them off with a few that we have received beforehand just to get the conversation going. And I may start with you, Sean, with the one question that we did receive, just because your education, you were over in the US for a little bit. Does what university or college you go to really matter? Or can you kind of go wherever you'd like, depending on the field that you want to get into?
That's a great question. I can tell you that studying engineering in the States required me to do some additional kind of proofing that my degree was equivalent to one that would allow me to practice engineering in Canada. Fortunately, US engineering schools are pretty well, like, world renowned. I know there are people, colleagues, even who have studied elsewhere in the world and have a little bit more difficult a time proving that their degree is equivalent, and they actually have to do additional testing. So I don't want to say it totally matters, but for some of, especially the more like professional oriented degrees, it can make a difference depending on where you want to practice afterwards.
Appreciate you sharing that. And I know Lily made a comment too with the one certificate or that you have. It's, you have to be mindful because maybe it's only Ontario, maybe it's just Canada, maybe it's Ontario and the States, right? So just make sure you do that little bit of research if you are looking at doing something specific, because yeah, a few places may have different rules, especially I know maybe province to province or state to state in the States, things sometimes vary. So ensure that you do your research. Bhav, I have a question for you. You did share a bit of the customer service experience that you had in your role. What are some other skills that individuals need to work in the field that you work in?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. So I'll be honest, change management is a relatively newer discipline. A lot of you may be familiar with project management, right? So change management, I like to say, I don't know if this is technically the right way of saying it, right? But it's almost like a spin-off where change management focuses really in on the people, right? So aside from having that experience of working in customer service jobs, that obviously helps to be a change manager. But a lot of other skills would include your relationship building skills, right? Like I said, there's over 90,000 employees at TD. I'm often put in situations where I have to take on a new project and I have no clue on who to reach out to, who this project is going to impact. Like, it could be a small change with, a word in one of our mortgage agreements that our customers get, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, there's over like 10 teams that need to be contacted. So your ability to build strong relationships, have those coffee chats, right? I think, Sean, you were saying, talk to everyone, right? Ask people questions so that they can rely on you and they remember to include you in conversations, and you can also rely on them for their expertise. So I know I really work on that. Organization skills are key. Sometimes you're managing over 5 different projects that could possibly launch in the same week. So you don't want to confuse, a person that's helping you with one project with a person in another project. That would just not be a good outcome for either of you two. So just being organized with that. And then the last thing I would say is strategic thinking. It's one thing to know that, okay, we're going to deliver change. I think this person needs a training module put together, right? But the other part of that is how can we strategically deliver this change so this person can actually adopt it? Like they actually understand what's changing so that when they have to explain it to a customer, they're not pulling out a piece of paper and saying, 1 second, Mr. Customer, this is a change and a reading off a script. They're able to naturally explain the change, right? So you really have to be creative and use your strategic thinking on how do we make our colleagues figure out what this change is so that it's naturally, it's natural to them when they have to now explain to customers.
No, really appreciate you sharing that. There's a lot more detail than I think people would assume, right? And so it's always good to understand that, and really appreciate you sharing that with the students today as well. Lily, I'm going to jump over to you with the question. What high school class or activity taught you the skills that are valuable to your job today? There might be a few of them, so you can just pick one if you'd like.
I just want to apologize first. There's construction going on next door to me, so it might be a little bit loud. The issue with high school courses is that it's very like academic focused. So in high school, I did physics, bio, chemistry, English lit, calculus. I did all of those to ensure that I can get into pre-med and also get into nursing school. What actually the activities that I did when I was in high school that really provided me with the skills to go into nursing was actually soft skills. And it came from my part-time job at Superstore at the grocery store. I learned how to talk to people, and that's something that you really need when you're in nursing, healthcare, or any job. You just need to know how to collaborate and communicate. And being in customer service and working in retail throughout my undergraduate, like I had to talk to people, I had to problem solve, I had to conflict manage, like manage conflict from I remember I was like working and someone was yelling at me because something wasn't in stock. And then I had to like take a deep breath, learn how to properly communicate what was wrong and how to escalate or de-escalate the issue. So my advice is if you want to go into nursing, I think the number one skill that you should look into is communication skills. And you can get that almost anywhere. That's the best part of nursing, that a lot of our skills are transferable.
That's a great skill to comment on. I think communication was mentioned throughout every panelist at some point today, and it really is important in your field and so many other fields. We are going to just finish off with one more question for you, Marella, and hopefully it's one just to let the students remind themselves a little bit when they do move forward in their future. What would you tell yourself in high school? What's one thing you'd tell yourself when you were back in high school?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, and I thought about that a lot as I was sort of preparing for this event, and a lot of honestly emotions came up for me. And if there was anything, I think it would be paying more attention to what my emotions and my body was telling me. There was a lot of moving parts and a lot of external pressures that was coming my way. And it's so easy to be blindsided sometimes because you get pressure from parents, from friends, from family members. You're always going to have that uncle that knows everything and you should do this, this, and this. And, you know, and you can't really say no because you don't want to be rude. And, you know, I'm not sure if that's happened to anyone, but, you know, and you often, you know, you forget about yourself. You stop listening to yourself and what you really wanted. And if there's anything that I've learned this last 20 years since, you know, I've left high school and so forth and started a family, is to really listen to yourself, embrace yourself more often. And I believe Lily touched on it quite a bit in terms of self-care. And I think every single panelist also touched on it, is because at the end of the day, it's just you listening to yourself, right? And it's up to you to do what you want to do. And you can sort of put everybody's thoughts and opinions and ideas aside and really listen to your heart. And so if I can just, you know, go back 20 years from now, I think that would be something that I would love to be able to practice more if I could.
Thank you so much. And I think those are some wonderful words to finish off today's webinar. So thank you to all of our panelists today. We are so fortunate to have each of you join today's event and share a glimpse of your varied career journey with us. Your stories, how you've continued to learn, overcoming challenges, being open to change. That was talked about a lot today. It is no wonder why all of you have found success and enjoyment in your meaningful careers. It is thanks to our amazing volunteer panelists that we are able to host today's event for all of the students and teachers today. So thank you so much for joining us today in your very busy school days. We'd also like you to take a couple minutes to complete a short survey that will be posted in the chat shortly. Students, please continue to learn and to prepare for your bright futures. It is unique for you to have an opportunity like this to learn, and you yourself can continue the learning by working on your own skills, personal dreams, and goals. We thank you all again for joining today's session and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.